if I could go back in time to that one day when he was in my house here, then obviously, you always think about things like that. What if I'd said this? What if I'd said that?
And there's been a lot of reporting on the sort of drugs, the alcohol. He, talked about sort of struggling. Did you know about that at the time?
A little bit.
When we were in the band, the best way to secure us, because of how big it got, was just lock us in our rooms. And of course, what's in the room? Minibar.
Simon Cowell breaking his silence on Liam Payne's death.
Simon Cowell just revealed what Liam Payne told him in their final conversation. And when you hear what was said in that room, you'll understand why he can't sleep at night. The music mogul who built empires on the backs of teenage dreams is now facing his darkest nightmare, a nightmare that plays on repeat every single day. A nightmare that starts with 3 hours in a London living room and ends with a fall from a hotel balcony in Buenos Aires. This is the story Simon Cowell never wanted to tell, but the world demanded answers, and now, finally, he's breaking his silence. November 24th, 2024, Simon Cowell sits across from a Rolling Stone reporter, and for the first time in his 66 years, the man known for his caustic wit and brutal honesty looks broken. His voice cracks as he describes the moment that shattered everything he thought he knew about protecting the people he discovered. It was October 16th. Simon was up north in England, working on his latest project, trying to build another boy band, trying to prove he still had the magic touch. Then someone who works closely with him walked into the room. He could see it on her face before she even opened her mouth. Something was catastrophically wrong. She told him to sit down, and then she said the words that would haunt him forever. Liam Payne was dead at 31 years old. Simon describes the feeling as identical to the moment he learned his father had passed away. Pure shock. The kind that makes your brain shut down because it simply cannot process what it's being told. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. Not to Liam. Not now. Not when everything seemed to be getting better. The first thing Simon did, before processing his own grief, before thinking about the media storm that was coming, before considering what this meant for his legacy, was ask someone to get Liam's parents on the phone. Because as a father himself, Simon understood something the rest of the world didn't. He understood that no parent should ever have to bury their child. And he knew Liam's mother and father. He'd known them since their son was just a 14-year-old kid with big dreams and an even bigger voice. When he finally reached them, they told him something that made the pain even worse. They said Liam was so proud of what he had achieved, so proud of the journey, so proud of everything that came from that 20-minute decision Simon made back in 2010. But here's what's eating Simon alive. Here's the thought that won't let him sleep. He had seen Liam just 1 year before this tragedy. Liam had come to his house, that same London home where Simon now sat trying to make sense of the senseless. And in that moment, in that conversation, Simon thought everything was perfect. Picture this. It's 2023. Liam Payne walks into Simon Cowell's living room, and the first words out of Simon's mouth are filled with genuine surprise. "God, you look amazing, Liam. What have you done?" Liam was glowing. He'd been hitting the gym, taking care of himself, and it showed. This wasn't the struggling artist the tabloids had been writing about. This was a man who seemed to have found his footing. They sat down, and what was supposed to be a quick catch-up turned into 3, maybe 4 hours of deep conversation. The kind of conversation you have with old friends, the kind where pretenses drop and real truth comes out. They talked about Liam's son, Bear. They talked about what it means to be a father, how it changes your entire perspective on life. Simon, now a father himself to his son Eric, connected with Liam on a level they'd never reached before. And then Simon gave him advice he thought was exactly what Liam needed to hear. He told him not to let music run his life anymore. After years of the relentless grind, the constant pressure, the never-ending cycle of recording and promoting and performing, Simon wanted Liam to know he had choices now. He didn't have to chase the next hit. He didn't have to prove anything to anyone. He could decide when to release music and when to just live. Simon told him to find something else he was passionate about, to explore life beyond the stage. Because at 30 years old, Liam Payne had already achieved more than most artists achieve in a lifetime. He'd sold over 70 million records. He'd performed for millions of fans across the globe. He'd lived the dream. Now it was time to define what came next on his own terms. When Liam left that day, Simon felt genuinely optimistic. He thought to himself, "Wow, you seem in a really good place." There were no red flags, no warning signs, nothing that suggested the darkness lurking beneath the surface, nothing that indicated this would be their final conversation. Simon admits now, in his interview with Rolling Stone, that if he could turn back the clock to that day, if he had known what was coming, everything would have been different. But how could he have known? When someone looks you in the eye and seems healthy, seems happy, seems like they've finally figured it out, how are you supposed to see the invisible cracks forming underneath? But to understand why this loss cut so deep, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to when Liam Payne was just a kid from Wolverhampton with a dream that seemed impossible. 2008, 14-year-old Liam stands on the X Factor stage for the first time, his voice filling the auditorium, his nerves barely contained. He makes it far, but not far enough. Simon has to deliver the crushing news, this isn't your time. But Simon also sees something in this kid, a spark, a determination. So he makes Liam a promise, come back, we'll meet again. Most teenagers would have given up. Most would have taken that rejection as a sign that maybe this dream wasn't meant to be. But Liam Payne wasn't most teenagers. 2 years later, in 2010, he returns to the X Factor stage. And this time, he absolutely nails it. Simon gives him a standing ovation. Liam's smile in that moment is pure joy, pure vindication. He came back, just like he promised. And this time, he's ready. Except, the competition doesn't go as planned. Liam and several other talented solo artists start faltering in the later rounds. They're good, but they're not quite making the impact they need to make. Simon is faced with a dilemma. He's about to reject Liam Payne for the second time. The kid who came back, who worked so hard, who did everything right, is about to be sent home again. And then, in a moment that would change music history, someone has an idea. What if they don't send them home? What if they put some of these talented solo artists together? What if Liam, Harry, Zayn, Niall, and Louis became something else? The decision takes 20 minutes. 20 minutes to create One Direction. 20 minutes to launch 5 teenage boys into a level of fame that would break records, shatter expectations, and ultimately break some of them in ways no one anticipated. Simon's label signs them. They explode onto the global scene. Teenage girls scream their names in every country. They can't walk down a street without being mobbed. Their lives become a whirlwind of private jets, sold-out stadiums, #1 albums, and locked hotel rooms. Wait, locked hotel rooms? In 2021, Liam Payne appeared on the Diary of a CEO podcast and revealed something disturbing. He talked about how, during the height of One Direction's fame, the best way to keep them secure, the best way to protect them from the chaos outside, was to lock them in their hotel rooms. And what's in every hotel room? A mini bar. Liam spoke openly about his struggles with alcohol, about how the isolation, the pressure, the constant scrutiny created a perfect storm for destructive habits. He talked about drinking to cope, about losing himself in the blur of fame, about forgetting who he was before all of this happened. The question that haunts Simon now is simple. Did he know? And if he knew, what did he do about it? Simon admits he knew a little. There were private conversations, advice he tried to give about the dark side of fame, about the pitfalls that come with success. But here's the reality, Simon wants people to understand. When you sign an artist, especially when you're running a major label with 20 or more acts on your roster, your role is to connect them with the right producers, the right managers, the right opportunities. You're not their parent. You're not their therapist. You can't follow them everywhere. It's like they leave the nest. Simon explains. You tell them you're available whenever they need you. You hope they'll reach out if things get bad, but you can't control their every move. You can't protect them from every bad decision. You can't save them from themselves.
But when the artist is a kid, when you discovered them at 14, rejected them, brought them back at 16, and created the band they're in, does that change things? Does that make you more responsible for what happens next?
Simon struggles with this question. He knows every artist is different. Every situation is complicated. Some artists transition smoothly from fame to post-fame life. Others spiral, and there's no way to predict who will fall into which category. When Liam died, the internet erupted, not just with grief, but with blame. People pointed fingers at Simon Cowell, at the music industry, at everyone who profited from putting teenage boys on a global stage without fully understanding the psychological toll it would take. The accusations were brutal. Simon Cowell is responsible for Liam Payne's death. The music industry killed another young star. How many more have to die before we stop exploiting children for profit? Simon had to make a choice, engage with the online mob or tune it out completely. He chose the latter because, as he explains, when people speculate without knowing the truth, what's the point of reading it? When strangers who never met Liam, who never sat in a room with him for 3 hours, who never looked him in the eye and tried to help, when those people confidently declare you're responsible for someone's death, how do you even begin to respond? The idea that you're responsible for somebody's life after you've signed them, Simon says, is impossible to sustain. You can't live with them. You can't monitor their every moment. You can offer support, guidance, resources, but ultimately, every person has to make their own choices. And yet the guilt remains. Because when Liam reached out to visit Simon that final time, it wasn't a cry for help. It wasn't, Simon, I really need you. It was simply, I want to see you because I miss you. And Simon responded, great, I miss you too. Two friends catching up. Nothing more, nothing less, or so he thought. The truth is, Simon Cowell has been grappling with his own evolution for years now. The man who once told American Idol contestants they had invented new forms of torture, who made fat jokes on national television, who became famous for being the meanest judge in entertainment, that man doesn't exist anymore. Go online and you'll find compilation videos of Simon's most brutal insults, clips of him crushing dreams with a single cutting remark, moments where the camera cuts to devastated singers, their faces crumbling under the weight of his criticism. It made for great television. It made Simon Cowell a household name. And now, looking back, he's not proud of it. He admits he went too far. He admits that audition days were long and boring, and he'd get fed up. And of course, out of 100 nice comments, the producers would use the one where he was in a bad mood. That's how television works, but it doesn't excuse it. It doesn't make it right. When asked what he's apologizing for, Simon doesn't dance around it, just being an asshole. He says bluntly, "That was then. This is now." He's changed. And part of that change comes from simply not engaging with the toxic parts of modern culture. Simon Cowell doesn't have a phone. He doesn't read anything online. He doesn't watch TikTok or Instagram. He doesn't scroll through Twitter seeing what people are saying about him. He lives in what he calls a bubble, and he's genuinely happier that way. While the rest of the world has gotten more vicious, more cruel, more quick to judge and condemn, Simon has softened. Becoming a father changed him. Losing his mother changed him. Therapy changed him. Age changed him. And now losing Liam Payne has changed him in ways he's still trying to understand. There's another name that comes up in Simon's recent reflections, Britney Spears. In the early 2010s, Simon recruited Britney to be a judge on X Factor USA. At the time, she was under a conservatorship, her life controlled by others, her autonomy stripped away. Simon remembers talking to Britney on the phone before she joined the show. 2 long conversations where she was fun, engaged, passionate, smart. He thought they were going to work brilliantly together. Then the press launch happened, and Britney looked miserable. She didn't realize there would be so much media attention. She struggled with saying no to contestants because she hated disappointing people. Simon sat with her and gave her an out. "If you don't want to do this, I'll get you out of it. But if you stay, you have to understand we can't put 200 people through to the finals. We're going to have to reject people." One day, Britney came to Simon's house, and they just talked. He wanted to get inside her head. Was she happy? Was she okay? The answer was clear. She wasn't happy. It was like talking to 2 different people, Simon recalls. Years later, Britney wrote in her memoir that she absolutely hated doing the show. Simon didn't know that at the time, but looking back, the signs were there. Another young star, damaged by fame, struggling to find solid ground, surrounded by people who wanted something from her. The pattern is undeniable. The music industry chews up young talent and spits them out. Some survive, some thrive, and some, like Liam, don't make it. So what's the lesson? What does Simon Cowell take away from Liam Payne's death? He admits he doesn't know what's harder, trying to become famous or managing your fame once you have it. Both are equally difficult. Both come with pressures most people can't imagine. The difference is, when you're trying to become famous, you have hope. You have a goal. You're working towards something. But once you're there, once you've achieved everything you set out to achieve, then what? Simon made his own choices. Not every day was amazing, but he's glad he did what he did. He wanted to be well known, and he accepted the stress, the pressure, the scrutiny that came with it, and he'd do it all over again. But here's the question that haunts him about Liam. Did Liam have that same clarity? Did he truly choose this life? Or was it chosen for him when Simon and the other judges put 5 teenage boys together in 20 minutes? When Simon created One Direction, he gave 5 kids the opportunity of a lifetime. But he also set them on a path they couldn't reverse. Once you've been in the biggest boy band in the world, once you've experienced that level of adoration, that level of success, how do you go back to normal? How do you find purpose in a quieter life? How do you cope when the screaming stops? Liam tried. He worked on new music. He appeared on Netflix's Building the Band, alongside Nicole Scherzinger and Kelly Rowland, mentoring the next generation of artists. He focused on being a father to his son. He seemed to be building something new. But beneath the surface, the struggles continued, and on October 16, 2024, at a hotel in Buenos Aires, those struggles reached a tragic end. Officials determined Liam had a blood alcohol level of 0.27% when he fell from his 3rd-floor balcony. The same demons he'd fought for years had won. Simon Cowell posted on Instagram 2 days after Liam's death. In it, he recalled their first meeting. "I had to tell you when you were 14 that this wasn't your time, and we both made a promise that we would meet again. A lot of people would have given up. You didn't. You came back, and within months, the whole world knew Liam." It was a tribute, a goodbye, an acknowledgement of the incredible journey they'd been on together. But it was also tinged with something else: regret, guilt, the weight of what ifs. What if Simon had said something different during that final conversation? What if he'd pushed harder to understand what was really going on beneath Liam's positive exterior? What if he'd sensed the danger lurking in the shadows? But Simon also knows the truth. There's only so much you can do for any artist. If you just have one artist in your life, maybe you can watch them constantly, protect them from every threat. But Simon had 20 artists. He had a label to run. He had his own family to care for. He couldn't be everywhere at once. When people ask if it's a good thing or a bad thing to give young kids a shot at fame, Simon asks a counter question. Without this opportunity, would they have been discovered at all? Is it better to give them a chance, even knowing the risks, or to let the dream die before it begins? It's an impossible question with no right answer. Today, Simon Cowell is working on a new boy band. His Netflix documentary series, Simon Cowell: The Next Act, follows him as he goes back to his roots, auditioning and training a group of teenagers. The series shows his more nurturing side, his evolution from harsh critic to supportive mentor. But it also raises uncomfortable questions. Has the world changed too much? Can a traditional boy band even succeed in the era of K-pop, TikTok, and algorithm-driven virality? Does Simon still have the magic touch, or has the industry moved on without him? More importantly, if Simon does create another successful group, will he protect them better this time? Will he watch for the warning signs he missed with Liam? Will he intervene before it's too late? Or will history repeat itself? Will another generation of young stars shine brilliantly for a few years before crashing back to earth, damaged by the very fame they once dreamed of? Simon wants to believe he's learned. He wants to believe he can do it differently, but the ghost of Liam Payne sits in that London living room, a constant reminder that good intentions aren't always enough. In the Rolling Stone interview, Simon is asked about his legacy. What does he want to be remembered for? The hits? The TV shows? The stars he discovered? He doesn't give a direct answer. Instead, he talks about his son, Eric, about how becoming a father pulled him out of a dark spiral after his mother's death, about how Eric came into his room one afternoon when he was 2 years old and asked, "Dad, what are you doing asleep?" And that simple question from a toddler made Simon realize he needed to change his entire life. For years, Simon had worked until 7 in the morning and slept until mid-afternoon. He thought morning people were weird. He couldn't understand how anyone functioned before noon, but his son needed him to be present. His son needed a father who was awake, engaged, and available. So Simon changed. He started going to bed at reasonable hours. He started seeing mornings for the first time in decades. He started living a life that wasn't solely dedicated to work and fame and success. And in that transformation, he became softer, more confident in himself, more at peace with who he is. He stopped reading online comments because they made him miserable. He stopped trying to be the villain everyone expected him to be. He started living in a bubble, deliberately disconnected from the toxic noise of modern celebrity culture. It's a privilege, of course. Most people can't just opt out of the internet and social media. Most people don't have the wealth and resources to create a protective bubble around themselves. But Simon can, and he does, and he's genuinely happier for it. Which makes Liam's death even more tragic. Because Liam couldn't opt out. Liam couldn't escape. Even when he stepped away from music, even when he focused on fatherhood, even when he seemed to be doing better, the weight of who he'd been, the pressure of living up to impossible expectations, the trauma of growing up in the public eye, it was always there, waiting in the shadows. Simon says Liam's death impacted him more than anyone he's lost, who wasn't family. That's a profound statement from a man who's known hundreds of artists, worked with thousands of people, and witnessed countless tragedies in the entertainment industry. But Liam was different. Liam was the kid who came back after being rejected. Liam was part of the 20-minute decision that created magic. Liam was someone Simon watched grow from a nervous 14-year-old into a global superstar, into a struggling adult, into a man who seemed to be finding his way. And then, suddenly, Liam was gone. The funeral was devastating. Simon attended, surrounded by the other members of One Direction, by Liam's family, by everyone whose lives had been touched by this bright, talented, troubled soul. And all Simon could think about was that conversation, that final 3-hour conversation where everything seemed fine. He's replayed it 1,000 times in his mind, looking for clues he missed, searching for the moment he should have said something different, wondering if there was a sentence, a question, a piece of advice that could have changed the outcome. But the truth is, some tragedies can't be prevented. Some people are fighting battles no one else can see. Some darkness is so deep that even love, support, and good intentions can't reach it. Simon knows this intellectually, but emotionally, he'll carry the weight of what if for the rest of his life. The music industry hasn't learned much from Liam Payne's death. Young artists are still being discovered at 14, 15, 16. They're still being thrown into the chaos of fame without proper support systems. They're still being locked in hotel rooms with mini bars. They're still struggling with addiction, mental health, and the impossible pressure of living up to their own success. Simon Cowell can't fix the entire industry, but he can control what he does next. And right now, what he's doing is trying to create a boy band with more care, more attention, more awareness of the human cost of fame. Will it work? Will these new kids avoid the pitfalls that destroyed Liam? Or will Simon look back in 10 years and face the same guilt, the same regret, the same haunting question of whether he could have done more? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, Simon Cowell is not the same man who created One Direction in 2010. He's not the cruel judge who mocked contestants on American Idol. He's not the workaholic who stayed up until 7 in the morning chasing the next hit. He's a father, a partner, a man who's seen the dark side of fame up close and personal, a man who's lost people he cared about, a man who's trying, however imperfectly, to do better. And every day when he walks through his London home, he thinks about that conversation, the one where Liam looked amazing, the one where they talked about fatherhood and life and finding passion beyond music, the one where Simon felt genuinely good about his friend's future. The conversation that in hindsight was a goodbye neither of them knew they were saying. Simon Cowell just revealed what Liam Payne told him in their final conversation. They talked about being fathers. They talked about stepping away from music. They talked about having choices and building a new life. And now Simon can't sleep at night because he gave Liam advice about finding peace and letting go of the pressure. He told him he was in control of his own destiny. He believed Liam was finally in a good place. But he was wrong. And that's a truth Simon Cowell will carry forever. The question isn't whether Simon is responsible for Liam Payne's death. The question is whether anyone in the music industry truly understands the cost of making teenage dreams come true, and whether that cost is worth paying. Simon doesn't have the answer, but he's asking the question, and maybe, just maybe, that's a start.